Hello students, today we will learn how nutrition takes place in animals. End of this video you will be able to define nutrition, understand how different organisms obtain nutrition, understand the nutrition in unicellular organisms like amoeba, nutrition in multicellular organisms, the human digestive system, the stages involved in nutrition, the different types of teeth and their function, and how digestion takes place in ruminants. Let me ask you one question. What will happen if we'll not be able to get food to eat for a very long time? We'll not be able to survive. So yes, all organisms need food for its survival and growth. And this requirement of nutrition and mode of intake of food, how they take in food and utilize this food for the different process of their body is known as nutrition. So as you have already studied, plants can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, but animals obtain their food either directly or indirectly from plants. Now let's study how different organisms take in food in different ways. For example, a bird sucks nectar from the flower to obtain its food. Similarly, human beings use their hand to intake the food in their mouth and swallow the food after chewing. Snakes swallow their prey without even chewing them. The frog captures its insects or prey with its sticky tongue. The earthworm uses its muscular pharynx to swallow its food. Spiders weave sticky webs in which small insects get stuck, and some aquatic animals filter tiny particles floating nearby them and feed upon them. Now, there are two types of organism, unicellular organism and multicellular organism. Uni means one and cellular means cell. That means the organism which have one cell are called as unicellular organism, whereas the organism which have multiple cells are called as multicellular organism. Examples of unicellular organisms are amoeba, paramecium, and the examples of multicellular organisms are all animals, humans are your multicellular organisms. Now let's study how nutrition is being obtained in unicellular organisms. Now let's take the example of amoeba. Amoeba is an unicellular organism which is irregular in shape, and amoeba has a finger-like projection which is called as pseudopodia or false feet. Now, on sensing the food, they engulf the food particle and push it inside your body using the pseudopodia. Now, amoeba, as you know, is not having any mouth or digestive system. The food particles are taken inside in the body in the form of food vacuole. Digestion of food particles is made possible by digestive juices secreted into the food vacuole. Now, they act on the food to break it down into simpler substances, and then this digested food is absorbed and assimilated. Now, the undigested food is thrown out of the body from any part of the body. In multicellular organisms like Hydra, they have numerous tentacles around their mouth. Hydra uses its tentacles to surround its prey and kill them, and then the food is pushed inside their body. Let's talk about how nutrition is obtained by multicellular organisms. It happens in 5 stages. The 5 stages are as follows. Number 1, ingestion. That means the process which involves in taking of the food inside the body is called as ingestion. Different organisms have special structures for taking in food. For example, we have studied about amoeba. They use their finger-like projection pseudopodia to engulf the food. If we talk about humans use their hand to engulf the food. And similarly, if we talk about frog, they use their sticky tongue to catch its prey. So different organisms take in food inside their body using different structures. So this is called ingestion. Now next stage is digestion. Now the process of breaking down of complex components of the food into simpler soluble form is called as digestion. That means the food which we eat is broken down into smaller particles. This is called as digestion. Now the third stage is absorption. Now the process of passing up of soluble product of digestion into the cells of the body through body fluids such as fluid is called as absorption. That means the food which is being digested, now it has to be transferred to all parts of our body through a fluid called blood. That is called as absorption. Now, the next stage is assimilation. The process of using the absorbed food molecules for producing energy and growth is called assimilation. As you all know, we eat food to obtain, to do various work and for our growth. So that means the food which is digested and used for doing certain activities and growth is called as assimilation. And the last stage is addition. The process of removing undigested food particles from a body is called as addition. So these are your 5 stages which is involved in the nutrition of multicellular organism. That is, number 1 ingestion, number 2 digestion, number 3 absorption, number 4 assimilation, and number 5 addition. Now you can also see the stages of nutrition in this diagram. The first one is your ingestion. That means the person is taking in food using his hand. Then the next step is digestion. That means the food is being digested in the digestive system. Next is your absorption. You can see that arrows going in all directions. This shows that the food is being digested, is being transferred to all parts of the body through blood. And the last step is addition. That means the undigested waste is being removed from your body. As we know, in multicellular organisms, the digestive system helps to complete the process of digestion. So we'll study about the various components of digestive system. As you can see in the picture, the components of digestive system are your mouth, then esophagus, then stomach, then pancreas, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, and your anus. We will talk about these all components of digestive system in detail. Study how digestion takes place in human bodies. First of all, the food is being intake in our body, that is your ingestion. We take in food inside our body through our mouth. Then the food goes to the next stage, that is for digestion. Now, the digestion starts from our mouth, but the food has to be broken down into smaller pieces because food is a very complex substance that need to be converted into smaller pieces. Now, for this process, we have in mouth, we have teeth which helps to convert our complex food material into soluble form that can be used, that can be absorbed by our cells of our body. Let's talk about our first component of digestive system, that is your mouth. Now, mouth contains tongue, teeth, and salivary glands. Now, as we have already discussed that food is a very complex substance and has to be converted into simpler soluble products. Now, teeth helps to break down the complex food into simpler products. Now, the process of converting the complex food material into simpler products is called as mastication. The chewed food is mixed with saliva. And what is saliva? Saliva is a watery fluid secreted by the salivary glands. And saliva contains an enzyme called salivary amylase which converts starch into sugar. Starch is a complex product of a food and it is converted into sugar. That is called as a simpler product of your food. This is how the digestion process starts in mouth. That means first the teeth will break down the food in complex food material into smaller pieces. Then it will mix with saliva. Saliva contains an enzyme, salivary amylase, which converts starch into sugar. And then the food passes to the next step. Now, before learning about the next component of the digestive system, we should know more about our teeth. What are the different types of teeth we have? What are the number of teeth we have? What are the functions of teeth? So let's study. So broadly, we classify our teeth into 4 types. First is your incisors. Second is your canines, third is your premolars, and fourth is your molars. Now, what are incisors? Incisors are the flat teeth which is located in the front. And the function of incisors is for cutting and biting the food. Next, we will talk about canines. Canines are the sharp pointed teeth next to incisors. Now, the function of canines is or piercing or tearing of food. Next, talk about premolars. Premolars are next to canines on either side. The function of premolars is chewing and grinding of food. Next, we'll talk about molars. Molars is also on the either side of the teeth, and the function is also same as your premolars, that is chewing and grinding of food. That means we have four types of teeth, that is your incisors, canines, premolars and molars, which all help in the digestion process. Now let's talk about canines. Canines are the sharp pointed teeth next to the incisors, and their function is to pierce and tear the food. Next we'll talk about premolars. Premolars are next to canines and their function is grinding and chewing of food. Now let's talk about the next type of teeth, that are molars. Now molars are located next to premolars, and the function of molars is chewing and grinding the food, same as your premolars. Now we have talked about the types of teeth and their function. Now let's talk about how many molars we have, how many incisors we have, that means the total number of teeth we have. If we talk about incisors, we have 4 incisors in the lower jaw, 4 incisors in the upper jaw. That means in total of 8 incisors. Let's talk about canines. We have 2 canines in the lower jaw and 2 canines in the upper jaw. That means in total of 4 canines we have. Next, premolars. 4 in the lower jaw and the 4 in the upper jaw. That means in total of 8 premolars we have. Let's talk about molars. We have 6 molars in the upper jaw and 6 molars in the lower jaw. That means in total of 12 molars we have. And we have now discussed about the types of teeth, their function and the number of teeth. Now, the teeth is also covered with a white substance. What is that called? That is called as enamel. That is the hardest substance in the human body. Now let's talk about the next type of teeth, that are molars. Now molars are located next to premolars, and the function of molars is chewing and grinding the food, same as your premolars. Now we have talked about the types of teeth and their function. Now let's talk about how many molars we have, how many incisors we have, that means the total number of teeth we have. If we talk about incisors, we have 4 incisors in the lower jaw, 4 incisors in the upper jaw. That means in total of 8 incisors. Let's talk about canines. We have 2 canines in the lower jaw and 2 canines in the upper jaw. That means in total of 4 canines we have. Next, premolars. 4 in the lower jaw and the 4 in the upper jaw. That means in total of 8 premolars we have. Let's talk about molars. We have 6 molars in the upper jaw and 6 molars in the lower jaw. That means in total of 12 molars we have. And we have now discussed about the types of teeth, their function and the number of teeth. Now, the teeth is also covered with a white substance. What is that called? That is called as enamel. That is the hardest substance in the human body. Now, in the figure you can see the different types of teeth, what are the different shapes of teeth and their function. First of all, we talk about incisors. You can see the incisors, they help to cut the food. Next, we have canines. You can see they are very sharp and pointed. They allow to tear or pierce or grab something. Next, we have premolars, which is helping you to crush or tear, that means to grind something. Similarly, we have molars, which also help to grind and chew the food. Let's talk about tongue. The tongue is a fleshy muscular organ present in our mouth that is free at the front but attached at the back to the floor of buccal cavity. Now, tongue has 2 main functions. First, the tongue helps to mix saliva with the food. Secondly, it helps to detect different kinds of taste through the taste bud and to swallow food. For example, if I give you 2 items to eat, one is your bitter gourd and second is your chocolate, and you are blindfolded. So you can easily by tasting can guess that this is a bitter gourd and next one is a chocolate. Why? Because the bitter gourd will be bitter in taste and the chocolate will be sweet in the taste. That the tongue helps you to detect the taste that yes, this is sweet, so this is a chocolate. So this is how the taste bud helps you to detect the taste. Now let's talk about the next component of digestive system, that is your esophagus, also called as food pipe. Now food pipe is a tube-like structure connecting the mouth and the stomach. It is about 30 centimeters long. Esophagus has a powerful muscles which gently push the food down the stomach, because after esophagus we have stomach. Now esophagus contracts and relaxes in a rhythmic fashion to facilitate the forward movement of the food. This movement in the other happens is also in the other parts of our body, alimentary canal. Now the food from the mouth through esophagus enter the stomach. Now stomach is a U-shaped muscular organ present in the upper abdomen. Now the inner walls of the stomach secrete digestive juices, mucus and hydrochloric acid. All these three things have their own different functions. The digestive juices break down the protein into simpler forms, whereas the hydrochloric acid kills the bacteria present in the food and provides an acidic medium for the action of digestive juices. Third, the mucus help in protecting the stomach lining from the action of acid. This is how the food is partially digested in stomach, and it is in the form of thick soup. And from the stomach, the food here passes to the small intestine. So all these three things which are secreted by the stomach plays a very vital role in the process of digestion. Now the partially digested food goes to the highly coiled, about 7.5-meter long tube that is called as your small intestine. The inner walls of small intestine secrete intestinal juices that complete the digestion of the various components of food. That means the partially digested food that has come from the stomach is completely digested in small intestine. Now small intestine also receives some secretion from liver and pancreas. Now you have to know this, the largest gland in our body which is present is your liver, that secretes bile juice. Now bile juice helps to break down fats into smaller, simpler products, and pancreas secretes pancreatic juice that break down carbohydrate, fats, protein into simpler forms. Now the small intestine receive all the secretion from pancreas and your liver, and the process of food is being completed in the small intestine. Now the undigested food enters the large intestine. Large intestine is wider and shorter than small intestine. It is about 1.5 meters in length. Here the water and some salt are absorbed from undigested food, and the undigested food becomes semi-solid and is being excreted out from our body through anus. Now let's study how nutrition takes place in ruminants, that are your grass-eating animals. Now, the animals that can digest their food by the process of rumination are called as ruminants. For example, cow and goat. Now let's talk about the process of rumination. Cows and some grass-eating animals like goats can swallow large amount of food at the time and bring that back, the swallowed food, into their mouth again and chew it again for a longer period of time. This process is called as rumination. And the animals which can digest cellulose and by the process of rumination are called as ruminants. Now, the animals that can digest their food by the process of rumination are called as ruminants. For example, cow and goat. Now let's talk about the process of rumination. Cows and some grass-eating animals like goats can swallow large amount of food at the time and bring that back, the swallowed food, into their mouth again and chew it again for a longer period of time. This process is called as rumination. and the animals which can digest cellulose and by the process of rumination are called as ruminants. Now the digestion in the ruminants take place in the stomach. As you can see in the picture, the stomach of the ruminants is four chambered. The four chambers are: first ruminant, second reticulum, third omasum, and third abomasum. These are the four chambers in which the food is being digested. Now let's talk about the fourth chamber. First, the ruminant. It is the first and the largest chamber which stores large quantity of food that is quickly consumed. The food here is partially digested, that is called as good. That means the partially digested food in ruminants is called as good. Cellulose is digested in the ruminant by the billions of bacteria present here. Next, the food from the ruminant enters the reticulum. It is the second chamber into which food enters from ruminant. Here the contents of the both ruminant and reticulum mix freely. The good here is brought back to the mouth and re-chewed and re-swallowed. Now the food from reticulum passes to omasum. It is the third and the smallest chamber of the stomach into which food passes after chewing. Excess of food is absorbed from the food here. Now, after the third chamber, the food passes to the fourth chamber, that is abomasum. It is the last chamber of the stomach into which the food enters. The walls of the omasum secretes digestive juices that help in digestion process to complete it. After the digestion is completed, the process of absorption takes place, as we have already discussed this above. Now, the absorption means that the digested food is being transferred to all parts of the body to get energy for the growth and for doing other activities. This is how the nutrition in ruminants take place. Thank you.